Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to my podcast. It's called It's Good to Talk. My name is John T. Healy. Podcast, It's Good to Talk. I have some shoutouts. This is a book I published in 2019 for Stoney McGurn, my friend, and it's called And That's How It All Started. Stoney was born in 1941. He wrote this book 2018, 2019, and passed it over to me as a manuscript to have it produced and published. He wrote it in a pencil format, by pencil, which is very traditional, and, not easy to format and put it all together. So Stoney and myself, we're like a combination of Steve Hawkins and Helen Keller. Stoney being the Steve Hawkins, the more genius. Another shout out to Liffey Van Lines, moving company here in New York City, and they've been around longer than Jeopardy, running longer than the New York City Marathon, and running very smooth. Also, they do storage. People do ask me questions. Pianos? Yeah, they move pianos. I have guests on that play pianos. Pianos, yeah, of course. Shout out always to Paddy McCarthy of the IrishExaminerUSA.com. Paddy is a great newspaper, lots of news on music, on some political stuff, not crazy, but enough to keep you happy about the way things are going or maybe not going. This paper's edition had the Celtic Band on, they're playing in New York, a lot of other good stuff on music events, and now that we're coming up to the end of the year, dinner dances and stuff like that. I usually have guests on. Today I won't have a guest on, because I have a lot to cover. I know if you're not over election fever, there's another election coming up in Ireland on the 29th of November, and I will get into that in a minute. Books I am still reading and reviewing. This is one by none other than Bono. Bono, I like Bono. I think Bono is God. Bono knows he's God. The book is called Surrender. It's a very, very interesting book, very honest and everything. A good book to read for anybody starting out in any career. It doesn't have to be music. At the early stages of YouTube band, nothing was easy, and it is kind of a story, maybe in a way, of rags to riches, but it shows the hardship and tribulations that Bono and the band had in the early days, and it's interesting and very honest and well put out there, and well done to Bono. I think he's a great human being, covers a lot of world events and stuff like that, and good charities. Not everybody likes him for no reason, but Irish people and people in general, we're like that. We don't even know why we don't like something. I'm also reading a book called The 1981 Hunger Strike. The writer is Michael C. Mintel. He'll be on a podcast soon as well. The hunger strike in Dublin, remember Bobby Sands and 9 of his friends all were let die on hunger strike in the Maze prison. That would be in charge at the time was Margaret Thatcher, A-C-U-N-T. We'll say no more about her. I don't want to ruin my day, do I? No. So let's move on and talk about the Irish elections are coming up on the 29th of November. Kind of a snap election, but they could have waited till after Christmas, but they decided to call it before Christmas, which is okay. Well, at least we'll know before Christmas who the new party are. Now, who's in power as we speak? It's a combination of Fianna Fáil party, Fine Gael party, and the Greens. There are 174 seats. 88 seats is what's needed to form a government. So between Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, they were not able to form a government, so they had to bring a smaller party in, and that the Greens come in there, I think, with 14 TDs. Other than that, among themselves, I think they had 35, 36, and Mary Lou, let me see what Mary Lou came in with. Yeah, 35, 32, and Mary Lou Sinn Féin had 33. So she was like really, really very close to having the most number of seats. And I hope she will do well this election coming up. That's the combination of the figures of the layout. To vote, you must be over 18 years of age and all of that, the usual stuff, bring ID and all that. And even dead people vote oftentimes in Irish elections, but they do everywhere, don't they? So Micheál Martin is the leader of the Fianna Fáil party. He had a great track record, I'll give him that. Of course, credit where credit is due. You'll remember Micheál Martin. He was the Minister for Health in 2004, and he was the first Minister for Health in the world, believe it or believe it not, and you heard it here in the world, that brought in the smoking ban. And then when Ireland brought in the smoking ban, other countries came along and followed the whole aspects of smoking, even smoking air, what do they call it, secondary smoke, is bad for your lungs and hence creates difficulty, even if it leads to other situations of, well, obviously cancer would be one, but the lung cancer is not good to get. So he brought it in Ireland, and then it was introduced everywhere. Now, in New York, that the smoking ban, I forget what year it was brought in New York, The side effects of the smoking ban, of course, are mostly good, except for smokers. 20% of Irish people smoke. Would you believe that? That's a lot. I think that's a lot. In New York, when the smoking ban came in, they couldn't smoke in bars, so they had to go outside and smoke. What was the side effect? It was fantastic. You'd be standing outside a bar with your cigarette lighting up, and a beautiful, beautiful lady would come by and ask you, "Can I have a light?" And a lot of guys would say, "You just lit up my life." And then relationships develop because at least they have one thing in common: they're smokers. They have two things in common if they're drinkers and smokers. And you never know. It goes from there. That's how life is. Life is certainly uncertain. So moving along to more of the election prospects in Ireland. Simon Harris is the leader of the Fine Gael party. Kind of newly in, not too long in. So far, so good. Good track record. The last budget, I wasn't impressed with the last budget. And now they're saying they'll make changes in taxes. You guys have been in there for the last 4 years. Why didn't you make those changes in taxes? On about bringing down VAT, value added tax. That should have been done way back. A lot of restaurants are closing down in Ireland due to the hardship of that tax, which is, I call it a regressive punitive tax. The capital gains tax, which is one I have a huge gripe about, was down, I think, to around 12 or 15%. And the Simon Harris, Micheál Martin government put it back up. How does capital gains work? Well, you make a profit on a property, you sell it, and now the government wants 30%, and back in the day it was 40%. I know when I sold my restaurant, I had a big fight with the taxman. I had to arm wrestle the fucker after giving him over 100,000 euro or pounds, and he was looking for more. Don't they always? Anyways, capital gains is a punitive tax. There's no incentive for any developer or investment type of creative people like myself to invest. And why would you? I built a restaurant for money in County Kildare. I employed 70 people. Now this last government built a shed for bicycles that cost three times what I paid to develop Mother Hubbards and produce 70 jobs. A shed for 14 bikes for the TDs themselves. It must be a very, very luxurious bike shed. I don't know what to say. It should be a tourist attraction to pay for itself. People go in and say, "What the fuck is the bicycle shed? Who's riding who in here, you know? I mean, who's riding what bike in here?" Well, that's that too. So the other candidate that's running is Mary Lou McDonald. Mary Lou is the leader of the Sinn Féin party. She took over from Gerry Adams a number of years ago. And you could see from the numbers I mentioned earlier on, a great track record, an extremely hard worker. Being the leader of a party is not easy. There are always hiccups, and she has a bunch of them this time. And she should have weeded them out as they cropped up, because that's how you keep a lawn or a garden clean. You weed them out very quickly. And if she didn't have more headaches, there's a criminal coming back from Spain who was in jail in Lanzarote, known as the Hutch monk. He's known as the monk, and he's coming back on a 100,000 euro bail. And he wants to run for election in the same constituency as Mary Lou McDonald. Can you believe that? A criminal want to be a politician? I know you'll say it's happened before. Yes, it has. And sometimes things happen and you could be amazed what happens. He wants to run in that constituency. I don't see him having a great success, to be quite honest. But Mary Lou has no issues about it because she said anybody's entitled to run. So let him run. I mean, he's been running a long time, hasn't he? He did orchestrate two of the big bank robberies in Ireland back in the day. A lot of criminal offences for so many things. It'd take me an hour here to tell you. I'm going to take a break now and I'm going to call on Jimmy Grady to sing us a song. This song he's going to sing today is called The Bright Blue Rose. It's a beautiful song. It was written by Jimmy McCarthy. I don't know if Jimmy McCarthy is related to Paddy McCarthy. I know they're both from Cork, so we're all related anyway in some way or other. So Jimmy McCarthy could be related to Paddy McCarthy. The song The Bright Blue Rose, which Jimmy is going to sing now in 1 minute, has many interpretations. Like a lot of well-written good songs, you have to take your own interpretation, your own meaning out of it. But I'll give you a clue what most people think about it, and then you can listen to Jimmy. Most people think The Bright Blue Rose, which was covered by Christy Moore and Mary Black. A lot of people think it refers to Jesus Christ. But you listen to it carefully and enjoy Jimmy Grady singing The Bright Blue Rose.
I skimmed across black waters without once emerging on to the banks of an urban morning. That For she, like a ghost beside me, goes down with the ease of a dolphin, and emerges unlearned, unchained, and harmed. For she is the perfect creature, natural in every feature, and I am the geek with the alchemist stone. For all of you who must discover, for all who seek to understand, for having left the path of others, you find a very special hand. And it is a holy thing, and it is a precious time, and it is the only way. Forget-me-nots among the snow, it's always been, and so it goes, to ponder his death and his life eternally. For all of you who must discover, for all who seek to understand, for having left the path of others, you find a very special hand. And it is a holy thing, and it is a precious time, and it is the only way. Forget-me-nots among the snow, it's always been, and so it goes, to ponder his death and his life eternally. One bright blue rose outlives all those 2,000 years, and still it grows, to ponder his death and his life eternally.
Jimmy, thank you. Well done. He's doing great, that guy. He's going to go places. So other elections that will be coming up next year is the Irish presidential election. Michael D. Higgins is the current president of Ireland. The president's role is very much a nice cushy job. You just sign bills, you meet and greet dignitaries that come into Ireland, and it's more a figurehead. The other duties they do is when the Dáil, the parliament, is dissolved, they sign off on that. It's basically a lot of signing off on bills and stuff like that. Michael D was my professor in Galway, proud to say that, and he was a very good professor. I fell asleep in his class one day. That just goes to show you how relaxing and thoughtful he was as a lecturer, professor. He is a poet. I think today I fell asleep. He was reciting his own poetry, some beautiful, beautiful poems. He speaks at least 3 or 4 languages. That's important for a president of Ireland, or any president indeed, to be fluent in a number of languages when you're meeting foreign dignitaries coming from other countries to visit the beautiful island of Ireland. Referring back there to Mary Lou, 2030 is going to be a big year in Ireland when the decision will be made to unite Ireland. We are 26 counties in the south and 6 in the north. So we need the 26 plus 6 to create a united Ireland. It's looking good overall, but things change, things get fluid. Mary Lou has promised, if she's elected the new leader of the Irish Parliament, to visit Donald Trump in the White House for the traditional St. Patrick's Day event, which is the sharing of shamrock and everything else, and friendship. Mary Lou has already said that this is important for her to visit Donald Trump in the White House, because to keep the Good Friday Agreement intact. That's a very important agreement, because that has kept peace in Ireland for the last 25 years plus. That's an achievement in itself, but an achievement for all the parties at the time, both the North and South, and the English Parliament as well. Everyone from Tony Blair, John Major, all the way up. A lot of people worked through the process, and all the way up to Bertie Ahern, who was the then leader of Fianna Fáil. So getting back to Michael D. Higgins, when he will retire out of the White House, no, Áras an Uachtaráin, which is the president's residence in Phoenix Park in Dublin. Usually the contenders are from political parties like someone from Fianna Fáil, from Fine Gael. Labour has had, Michael D was a Labour person. Mary Robinson came from the Labour Party. Mary McAleese, she was from the north of Ireland, and others were mostly Fianna Fáil, I guess. There was only one president ever in Ireland that resigned. He took a bit of a sissy fit, as we call it, when someone one of the TDs made an insult about him and he couldn't handle it, and he said he threw in the job, which was a bit ridiculous. If you're that sensitive, you shouldn't have a job where you're open to criticism. I love to be criticised. It's part and part of if you're in the public eye. So he was Carl O'Dowley, in case you're pushing buttons there to find out, will I say his name? And he surrendered. Mary Robinson and herself made a lot of history by having a meeting with Queen Elizabeth, both north and south, and Queen Elizabeth came to Dublin and she actually spoke in the Irish Parliament, and she did say a couple of fuckle, which means a few words of Irish, even though she was advised not to by her advisors. But she went off the camera and said, "Conas talk to, okay, will to make a mic," which is, "How are you doing? I hope you are well. I am okay. I have a difficult, dysfunctional family." Now, she didn't translate all that into Gaelic. That's a story for a long podcast. Other contenders, if they're not from political parties, can be anybody over 35 years of age in Ireland. They have to be kind of approved by the Senate. I think 20 members have to say yes, and a few other little bits of red tape like that. So other people that are possibly running, if you check the betting now, like Conor McGregor, you all know Conor McGregor, at the moment he is 1,000 to 1. So you could put $1 on there to win 1,000, but maybe getting over some of the red tape stuff. I don't know how many languages he speaks. I know he talks a lot of shite. I mean, bad language, sorry. That doesn't count in Oris an Uachtaráin. But if he has Gaelic and English and a bit of French and Spanish, those are pluses. And as Mary Lou would say herself, he's entitled to run to be the President of Ireland. And you are entitled to vote for him too, if you have a vote in Ireland. Other possible contenders then are maybe just celebs. Like Anne Doyle, a good friend of mine, was the newsreader for RTE for a number of years. And someone like that has a good chance because they're kind of very neutral. I mean, you're a newsreader, you're just reading the news. You're not making up the news, you're reading it. And Anne is a beautiful person. And I think she would be my favourite, personally speaking. Of course, from the Fine Gael party, Michael Ring is a TD from the west of Ireland. Very good for the people type of guy who was able to work with both parties. So Michael Ring would be another favourite. From the Fianna Fáil camp, people would say Bertie Ahern, maybe yes, maybe no. I'm not going to influence you on that one. Other people would be just maybe other celebs that would come from the world of football or boxing, like Conor McGregor or something like that. And sometimes a few dark horses come out into the race and you never know where they'll end. But when the big parties get behind their guy, it's that guy had usually a good chance. Now, without a doubt, as always and forever, the Catholic Church in Ireland has a huge influence. The Catholic Church in Ireland has been in bed with the Fianna Fáil party since the foundation of the state. And the church, Catholic Church and Fianna Fáil, they're like one on one. It's like a relationship, to say the least. And then the only reason that Sinn Féin finds it difficult to get into power is Fianna Fáil will amalgamate and go into coalition with Fine Gael and the Greens. As a matter of fact, Fianna Fáil would take any dirty dog on the street to get the advantage of getting the power. Of course, power corrupts, and the more power you have, the more corruption you have. So other than that, a few other things to shout out. 1010 Wins news station, give me 22 minutes and I'll tell you the story, are having their small business challenge, and that's coming up. The final is going to be December the 4th, downtown here in New York in the 1010 studio. And if you'd like to get a ticket for that, you could be my guest and I can invite you along to see 10 contestants. They'll all pitch their story to win the big prize of the $10,000. Runner-ups get, I think, 1,000 each. It's a beautiful, beautiful evening. It's interesting. Some of the people I met there before who have been on my podcast, you remember the Popcorn Girls? Yes, I met them there. And I'm happy to say that on this occasion, 2 of my guests on podcast will be entrants and contestants in that. One is Adam Cardona he's a sports massage healer here in Park Avenue. He has entered. Good luck to Adam. And Samila, who was on the Herbal Tea Lady, she was on my podcast only a few weeks ago, probably one of my last podcasts. So they're in with the running. I wish them both well. Makes it a little bit more exciting for me because I have Now I feel I have 2 horses in the race, at least, anyways. But, there's competition and they're up against other people, so we'll see how it goes. But wishing them well, and it's sponsored by Dime Savings Bank, and that's very generous of Dime Savings Bank. And you all know how Dime Savings Bank got the name Dime Savings Bank, because the original founder of Dime Savings Bank, when he opened up the bank, you could open a bank account with just one dime. And he got rid of all the red tape for Irish people and other immigrants that had to have 10 forms of ID, your mother's birth certificate, just to open a simple bank account. He made all that simple and easy. So you could get into work and be construction or a fireman or whatever job you had and open a bank account for a dime and start saving. Great concept. And I do love the Small Business Challenge. Thanks also goes out to Robert Walsh of Tintin Wins, his assistant Lewis, who also works for the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. If I have that right, yes, or the Bronx Borough Council. Vanessa Gibbons is the Bronx Borough Council president, and she's keeping a close eye on Gracie Mansion, not just for a picnic, but it's a nice property, of course, nice residence too. So good luck to Vanessa when that comes up. I believe it will be vacated soon. So almost wrapping up now for today. I will have guests on in the future. My tequila guys are coming on. Lorcan Phelan from Dublin has an Irish tequila called Irlandais 32, I think it's called. It's a liqueur, it's a tequila, and that's going to be fun. I also have some artists coming up. I'll announce those as they approach me, and Michael Mintel of the book. And other than that, other elections to watch out for in the future will be maybe when Pope Francis steps aside. It's rare for a pope to step aside, not since the last German pope threw in the towel and decided to walk out of the Vatican. But Pope Francis, I don't know how will they wait until he kicks the bucket and light a candle, or will he resign? But then the election for a pope is usually done by what's known as a conclave of the cardinals. So the cardinals vote among themselves. It's a bit like a boys' club, really, But I'm sure all of you here in New York City will be praying, because you're not voting, you cannot vote. You'll be praying for Cardinal Dolan. So we wish the Cardinal of New York City good luck when he's running for Pope or walking for Pope or whatever they call it. And then when the white smoke goes up, that's when they know the Pope is elected. You can Google conclave and the white smoke. It's an interesting thing to watch, is the election of a new Pope. And again, I guess the conclave take into consideration who they like. Isn't that what it's about? It's not about how smart you are, it's how much people like you. And people vote always for hope. And I think when it comes to something like electing a pope, it should be for hope. So on that note today, if you like my podcast, do subscribe. There's over 120 podcasts in the run in there. I'll give a shout out to Irish Stew, another podcast here in New York City, and they have a lot of interesting stories and interesting guests on too. I really like the last podcast they did. It's about aging and getting old. And don't we all get there eventually? And check out that podcast, irishstew.com. So I usually sign off in my native language, which is the Irish Gaelic language, my first language, and my second language is English. So I'm going to say Shin Scale. That means that's a story. Agus Scale, that means, and we'll have another story. Agus Slán Gafol means goodbye for now. So until the next time, Slán.